Come closer. Sit. Before words, let us begin with breath. I have lived many years inside stone walls, walls built not to keep the world out, but to quiet the noise within. And in that quiet, I have learned this truth. Most suffering does not come from what happened to us, but from what did not. What did not arrive when we were small? What was not spoken when we were afraid? What was not held when we were breaking? These absences leave maps inside us, unfinished, fragmented maps. We walk through adulthood following them, wondering why we keep arriving at the same pain. Tonight, I speak to you about those places, the emotional gaps, and how to rebuild connection where it was missing, the invisible wounds. In the monastery, we tend gardens. When a plant fails to bloom, we do not scold it. We ask quieter questions. Was there enough light? Enough water? Enough care? Human hearts are no different. Some of you grew up fed, clothed, educated, yet still starved. Starved of reassurance, of safety, of being truly seen. And because there was no single moment of violence, no clear bruise to point to, you learned to doubt your own pain. You told yourself others had it worse, so you stayed silent, and silence became your teacher. But silence, left unattended, becomes distance. Distance becomes disconnection, and disconnection becomes identity. You did not choose this. You adapted. How gaps become patterns. An emotional gap is not emptiness, it is a misdirected signal. A place where love tried to flow and met no response. So the child learns to perform instead of feel, to please instead of ask, to withdraw instead of risk. And the adult inherits these strategies, believing they are personality traits. You call it independence. You call it strength. You call it being low maintenance. But beneath these names is often a quiet vow made long ago. I will not need what was never given. And so connection feels dangerous. Intimacy feels exhausting. And loneliness feels familiar. Reading the map with compassion. In the monastery, we study ancient maps, imperfect drawings of the world, shaped by fear, wonder, and limited sight. We do not mock them. We honor the hands that tried to understand. So must you. Your emotional map was drawn by a younger version of you doing their best with what they had. Every gap marks a place where care was needed and not received. That is not a flaw, it is evidence of survival. Do not rush to erase the map. First, learn to read it. Where do you overgive? Where do you shut down? Where do you feel most unseen? These are not weaknesses. They are coordinates. Rebuilding begins with presence. Many believe healing means going back and fixing the past. This is impossible. Healing means standing here, fully present, and offering now what was missing then. Connection does not return all at once. It returns the way dawn does, gradually, quietly, faithfully. You rebuild by listening to your body without argument, naming emotions without judgment, letting longing exist without shame. When sadness rises, do not rush to explain it away. Sit with it. Place a hand on your chest. This simple act says, you are not alone now. That is how connection begins, not with answers, but with accompaniment. The courage to receive. One of the hardest lessons I learned as an abbot was this. It is often easier to give love than to receive it. Receiving requires vulnerability. It requires trusting that the other will stay. And for those whose gaps were formed by emotional absence, staying feels uncertain. You may push people away not because you do not want closeness, but because you fear discovering it will disappear. So rebuilding connection is not only about reaching outward, it is about allowing yourself to be met. Let someone see you when you are not useful. Let silence exist without filling it. Let care land. This is terrifying, and it is sacred. We're parenting the missing moments. In our order, novices are taught discipline, but also gentleness. We do not punish mistakes, we correct with care. You must become such a guide to yourself. When you feel overwhelmed, ask, what age inside me is hurting right now? When you feel unworthy, ask, what reassurance was never spoken? Then speak it, not loudly, not dramatically, but consistently. I am allowed to need. I do not have to earn rest. I am safe to feel. Each time you do this, you place a stone where a bridge once collapsed. Connection is a practice, not a trait. You were not born disconnected. You learned it, which means you can unlearn it. Connection is not something you have or lack. It is something you practice, with yourself first, and then with others. Some days you will retreat. Some days you will reach. Do not demand perfection. Demand honesty. Even the monks falter. Even the most devoted lose their way. What matters is not the absence of wandering, but the willingness to return. The quiet transformation, One day, without announcement, you will notice something has shifted. You pause instead of react. You ask instead of assume. You stay present instead of disappear. And you will realize the gaps are still part of your story, but they no longer control the path. You did not erase them. You connected them. A final blessing. If you are listening to this and feeling seen, know this: you are not broken. You are unfinished in the most human way. May you treat your emotional map with reverence. May you rebuild slowly, honestly, tenderly. May connection find you first within, and then without. And may you come to understand this simple truth: what was missing can still be given. What was broken can still be bridged. And what was silent can still learn to speak. Sit with that. Breathe. The path continues, now with you awake upon it.